Gauss-Jordan elimination. So we have the matrix C is 1, 1, negative 1, 1, negative 1, and 2, 2, 1, and 1. So we will just copy the matrix C. We have 1, 1, negative 1, 1, negative 1, 2, 2, 1, 1. So we have the identity matrix 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. So first, we will subtract the row 1 minus the row 2. So the result is row 2. So row 1 minus row 2. Row 1 is 1 minus the row 2 is 1. So 1 minus 1, the result is 0. Then in the second column, we have row 1, 1. Then our row 2 is negative 1. So 1 minus negative 1 will be positive 2. And the third column, we have the row 1, negative 1. And then the row 2 is positive 2. So negative 1 minus 2, the result is negative 3. So in the fourth column, we have 1, row 1. Then our row 2 is 0. So 1 minus 0, the result is positive 1. Then in fifth column, we have in row 1, 0. Then our row 2 is 1. So 0 minus 1 will be negative 1. Then in the sixth column, we have in row 1, 0. Then in row 2, we have 0. So 0 minus 0, the result is positive. The result is 0. So our row 1, our row 2 will be 0, 2, negative 3, 1, negative 1, and 0. So we will just copy the row 1 and the row 3. So in this part, we will be multiply negative 2 row 1 plus the row 3. So it will be row 3. So we will multiply negative 2. Then our row 1 is 1. Then our row 3 is 2. So negative 2 times 1 plus 2, the result is 0. So in the second column, we have the row 1 is 1. Then our row 3 is 1. So negative 2 times 1 plus 1, the result is negative 1. So in the third column, we have negative 1, our row 1. Then our row 3 is positive 1. So negative 2 times negative 1 will be positive 2 plus 1. Then the result is positive 3. In the fourth column, we have row 1 is 1. Then our row 3 is 0. So negative 2 times 1 will be negative 2. Then plus 0, the result is negative 1. Then in the fifth column, we have the row 1 is 0. Then our row 3 is also 0. So negative 2 times 0 plus 0 will be 0. So in the sixth column, we have the row 1 is 1. Then our row 3 is positive 1. So negative 2 times 0 will be 0. Then 0 plus 1, the result is positive 1. So our row 3 is 0, negative 1, positive 3, negative 1, 0, and 1. So in this part, we will simply add the row 2 and the row 3. So we have this formula, row 2 plus 2 times row 3 will be row 3. So our row 2 is positive 0, Then our row 3 is 0 also. Then 0 plus 2 times 0, the result is 0. Then in the second column, we have the row 2 is positive 2. Then our row 3 will be negative 1. So 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2. Then times negative 1, the result is 0. Then in the third column, we have the row 2 is negative 3. Then our row 3 will be positive 3. So negative 3 plus 2 times 3 will be positive 3. And then in the fourth column, we have the row 2 is positive 1. Then our row 3 is negative 1. So 1 plus 2 times negative 1, the result is negative 1. Then in the fifth column, we have the row 1, our row 2 rather, is negative 1. Then our row 3 is 0. Then negative 1 plus 2 times 0, the result is negative 1. And then in the sixth column, we have row 2. The value is 0. Then our row 3 is positive 1. So 0 plus 2 times 1, the result is positive 2. Our row 3 will be 0, 0, 3, negative 1, and positive 2. So we will just copy the first row and the second row. So in this part, we will just simply subtract the row 2 minus the row 1. Then the result of that will be the row 1. So now, our row 2 is 0. Then minus our row 1 is positive 1. So 0 minus 3 times 1 will be negative 3. Then in the second column, we have the row 2 is positive 2. Then our row 1 is positive 1. So 2 minus 3 times 1, the result is negative 1. Then in the third column, we have the row 2. The value is negative 3. Then minus the row 1. The value is negative 1. Then negative 3 minus 3 times negative 1, the result is 0. Then, in the fourth column, we have the row 2. The value is positive 1, then the row 1 is 1. So, 1 minus 3 times 1, the result is 2. Then, in the fifth column, we have the row 2 is negative 1, then our row 1 is 0. So, negative 1 minus 3 times 0, the result is negative 1. Then, and in the sixth column, we have the row 2 is 0, then our row 1 is 0. So, 0 minus 3 times 0, the result is 0. So, now, our new row 1 will be negative 3, negative 1, 0, 2, negative 1, and 0. So we will just copy the second row and the third row rather. So in this part, we will just add the row 3 plus the row 2, then it will become the row 2. So our row 3 is 0, then our row 2 is 0. So 0 plus 0, simply the result is 0. Then in the second column, we have the row 3 is 0, then our row 2 is 2. So 0 plus 2, the result is positive 2. Then in the third column, we have the row 3, negative 1, then our row 2 is negative 1 plus 1, the result is 0. Then in the fifth column, we have the row 3 is negative 1, then our row 2 is negative 1. So negative 1 plus negative 1, the result is negative 2. Then in the sixth column, we have the row 3 is 2. Then the value of row 2 is 0. So 2 plus 0, the result is 2. So our new value now of row 2 is 0, 2, 0, 0, negative 2, and positive 2. So we will just copy the first row and the third row. So in this part again, we will just add the row 2 and the row 1. So now, our row 2 is 0, then our row 1 is negative 3. So we have this formula, row 2 plus 2 times row 1 will become the row 1. So our row 2 is 0, then our row 1 is negative 3. So 0 plus 2 times negative 3, the result is negative 6. In the second column, we have the row 2 is positive 2, then our row 1 is negative 1. So 2 plus 2 times negative 1, the result is 0. Then, in the third column, we have the value of row 2 is 0, then our row 1 is 0. So, simply 0 plus 2 times 0, the result again is 0. Then, in the fourth column, we have the row 2 is 0, then our row 1 is positive 2. So, 0 plus 2 times 2, the result is positive 4. Then, in the fifth column, we have the row 2 is negative 2. Then, our row 1 is negative 1. So, negative 2 plus 2 times negative 1, the result is negative 4. Then, the last is the sixth column. We have the row 2 is negative 2. Then, our row 1 is 0. So, 2 plus 2 times 0 will be positive 2. Our new value of row 1 will be negative 6, 0, 0, positive 4, negative 4, and positive 2. So we will just copy the second row and the third row. So now, we will multiply row 1 in negative 1 over 6. Then, in the second row, we will multiply 1/2 to row 2. Then in the third row, we will multiply 1/3 to row 3. We have the formula is negative 1/6 times the row 1. So our row 1 is negative 6. So negative 1/6 times 6, the result is positive 1. Then negative 1/6, then the value of row 1 in the column 2 is 0. Then the result is 0. The negative 1/6 times the column 3, the result is 0. Then negative 1/6 times the fourth column, we have the positive 4. So negative 1/6 times 4 is negative 2/3. Then in the fifth column, we have negative 4. So negative 1/6 times negative 4, the result is 2/3. Then in the sixth column, we have the value of 2. So, negative 1/6 times 2, the result is negative 1/3. New row 1 now is 1, 0, 0, negative 2/3, 2/3, and negative 1/3. So, now we will be moving on to multiply the 1/2 to row 2. Row 2 is 0. So, 1/2 times 0 is 0. Then, in the second column, in the row 2, we have the value of 2, then 1/2 times 2, the result is 1. Then 0, 1/2 times 0 is 0. Then in the fourth column, we have the value of 0, so 1/2 times 0, the result is 0 again. Then in the fifth column, we have the value of negative 2, so 1/2 times negative 2, the result is negative 1. Then in the sixth column, we have the value of 2. So 1/2 times 2, the result is 1. So our new row 2 now is 0, 1, 0, 0, negative 1, and positive 1. So now, we will multiply 1/3 to row 3. So our row 3 is 0. So 1/3 times 0, simply the result is 0. Then 0, 1/3 times 0 is 0. Then in the third column, row 3, we have 3. 1/3 times 3, the result is 1. Then 1/3 times negative 1, the result is negative 1/3. Then 1/3 times negative 1, the result is negative 1/3. Then 1/3 times the 6th column, we have 2. So 1/3 times 2, the result is positive 2/3. So our new matrices now, we have the 1, 0, 0, negative 2/3, positive 2/3, negative 1/3, 0, 1, 0, 0, negative 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1/3, negative 1/3, and negative, positive 2/3.